All right, welcome to Beginners Academy. Uh, we have a group of mentors on our Zoom and beginners and anyone who will join us. Welcome. And tonight we have a talk by Chris, VA3 ECO. He's in Kenora, Ontario, and it's on Earth, Moon, Earth on a budget. So take it away, Chris.
Okay. Yeah. Right off the top, I'll say the budget thing might be a little misleading because no matter how you cut it, it is going to cost a bit of money. But I don't know. It's possible to do it with what the stuff you've got. Um, I'll do a share screen right off the bat and see if I can figure this out. Okay, share the screen. So I share the screen, I guess, eh? Not the window. There we go. So let's look at the moon right now.
I had There it
Ooh.
is. Yeah.
Okay, I've got slow internet problem. Wished I'd been at the island still, but as I was telling the guys earlier, ice is starting to form, so I had to bail out there where I've got good internet to my house in Kenora, which does not have good internet. So if it falters a bit, let me know. Start off with a little bit of a slideshow.
Makes it more realistic.
Yeah, like the real EME. Okay, well, this is the cabin that I just left yesterday. The antenna I used for my one successful and two or three unsuccessful EMEs was this one here. It's a UHF antenna, cross polarity 20 by 20 elements. It's an old antenna. I think it's a Cushcraft from the 80s or something like that, before they got computer modeling and stuff. I think this antenna would be the equivalent of the one that's on the club for the satellite system right now. Even though it's twice as long as the club one, I think because of the better design, the club one, from my experience playing at the Panama City Radio Club, is probably as effective as this one. So what I do here could be done at the club, but I gotta. Oh well, we'll get into it in a minute. It's like fishing. It's a patience thing. That's a closer view of it.
What tower is
It's
that?
like
Is
I
that a
said, 20
Roan 6
elements.
tower?
That's that's a stick tower. It's not by Roan. It's a chunk of 1 inch steel pipe with one of those little tripod. You can buy them mounting things. I'll go back a slide. Get a better view of it. One of those little cheapy tripods and a 1 inch chunk of pipe. And it's got a azimuth rotor here and an elevation rotor here. So it is not the strongest thing in the world. I should probably have something more substantial, but the beauty is it's easy to get up and down to. I can put a step ladder on the roof and I don't have to climb as much. That's looking west out of the cabin. This is a 2x2, 11 by 11 elements, 2 meter antenna. This is primarily my satellite stuff. So I wasn't after EME. I was after satellites. Done quite a few over the years. It's a good satellite rig. I heard of a guy that does talk to satellite people, and in fact, he went on one of the satellite forums. Says anyone wants to give me a try, look me up on the chat page, and we'll see if we can make it work. He's worked people down to like 5 elements, stuff like that. He's got such a powerful station. So I did, and his call sign is DL7APV. Now, unfortunately, he's a silent key now. His name is Bern. He lives here in Germany. I'm over here in Ontario, and this is a PSK reporter report of our QSO that was successful in February of last year, February 2nd, and 4,205 miles. At the time, I was in Panama City Beach, but I remoted into the station here, heard him on this digital mode, thought, well, what the heck? I went to the chat page. He says, "Well, if you can hear me, call me." And 2 minutes later, we were done. I was quite, well, I mean, 4 minutes later because it's a 1 minute cycle time. I was quite amazed that it worked. So I just thought, I've tried it since, and we'll go into details about how I got there. This is the reason it worked. This is 128 11 element Yagis. The ones across the top are not UHF Yagis. That's a 4-meter band that they have over in Europe. I don't know that it's even legal here and on this side of the pond, but below that, these are good size 11 element Yagis, and there's 128 of them.
Wow.
And this is a rotating system that they use when they're taking cranes off of ships with the big crane that pulls them up and then it swings around and then drops them onto the trucks and whatever. He got a hold of a used one of those things and fashioned it to rotate this whole apparatus. Now, unfortunately, he just passed away from cancer. So now I've talked to people, they say that his station might get taken over by somebody. They haven't torn it down. So there's hope that it could get back on the air because it's amazingly strong.
Yeah, I think I'll make me one of those. I think I'll make me one of those.
Yeah, tomorrow. Yeah.
You would be a popular guy. Anyhow, so this is the QSO. He was calling CQ. I heard him. I called him back. I'm in the yellow here. He responded to me. I respond back to him with his report. Now look at the signal reports, minus 24. That's low. I think this mode probably can get down to 27 or 28, and that's about the limit of it. So we're at the bottom of the bottom, but it managed to work, and no lost sequences or anything. He gives me his RR73. I gave him my 73, and it was in the record books. Now, you look at the frequency here, it looks a little funny. We're actually, I think, at 4032.064 megahertz, but it's not quite there, and we'll talk about that in a minute because of Doppler shifting. Okay, this is another attempt. This is a very powerful station. I'll show you a picture of his dish in a minute. HB9Q. Heard him, tried to call him back. I let him know that I was calling him back. He never heard me once, so that was not in the record books. While I'm doing it, I'm tracking the moon with a little program down here, which is available at the club station, and it's on the desktop of that little, what type of computer is it, Greg? It's one of your old computers.
I think it's Lenovo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey,
Anyhow.
back up a minute. What frequency did you say you were on? 084?
083.
I think
your
I
actual
was
frequency.
084, but the
All right.
actual
If you take the
was
080, hold it. If you take the 083,
sorry, 083. There it is there.
take the 083 and add the 1.361, and you'll get 84.5.
Yeah.
You see what I did? That's your actual frequency, 84.5.
Yeah, because of the frequency here. But on
Right,
top of that,
that's wherever you are on the scale there changes
yeah.
your
But
your
we've
fundamental
also got
frequency.
we've also got a Doppler frequency change here as well, a 407 kilohertz Doppler adjustment. So we'll get into the
Yeah.
Doppler in a minute.
Well, did you mention what mode this was for?
Yeah, this is Q65.
Okay.
And it's similar to FT8, but a little more powerful, a little more options, things you have to pick in it. But it's basically very similar to FT8. This is the dish that I was talking to, this middle one here. It's 50 feet in diameter.
Wow.
It's a big one.
That'd make a good 80-meter loop.
Around the outside. Yeah.
My
He
capacitor will work on that.
he worked this fellow, MXOCNS. MX, what country would that be? Somewhere up near England? Greg? I don't know.
I don't know.
Or Jim? Anyhow, he worked this guy. He was putting out 60 watts on this antenna.
While he's holding it.
Yep. And it says short time after that, they worked the same guy on a 2-element Yagi with 60 watts. So 2 of these elements and 60 watts.
Yeah, AMX is Great Britain.
Okay. So I'm not going to say to run out there with your Arrow antenna and expect this to work, but it might. Okay, attempt number 3. This is a guy named Frank down in, I think, South Carolina, if I'm not mistaken, or somewhere down near you guys. NC1I. He's got quite a farm. I'll show you in a minute. I heard him 4 times. I called him 8 or 10 times. He never heard me. So I'm lacking in power. I'm putting out, well, by the time I get up to my antenna, maybe 35 watts. And I think that's my shortfall. I need more jam at my end. So a linear is a good thing to have. Although that guy with that little handheld had 60 and he made it. So there you go. Again, Q65 60B is the one we're using. We'll talk about that in a minute. And this is just last weekend where I tried again. I set this thing up just to listen. I went around, did some other chores, left it on all night, tracking the moon automatically with this little program here. Came back close to bedtime and I picked him up once. But I thought that was pretty impressive. He said he'd be at 1500 hertz. I was working with another guy earlier in the evening. He says, well, maybe your frequency is off. I heard him at 1499 once you add in the Doppler and whatnot. So my frequency was good, just my reception was bad. I also should have a preamplifier for this thing, but it can't work.
So
Need to sync your time in there too. Your time is way off. 2.7 seconds or whatever it was.
Yeah, that's normal.
That's normal?
Yeah, because the moon's
Oh, when
so
you're doing
far
that, it's not like FT8.
No, well, because the moon is far away. If you did FT8 to the moon, you'd also be 2.5 seconds.
Yeah. Time
Because
delay,
it
I
takes
assume.
2.5 seconds to get there and back. Traveling at the speed of light, it still takes time. And we'll talk about that. That's a good thing to bring up, Corey. We'll talk about that in a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And how the software actually handles that for you. Because 2.5 seconds would normally be in an area of no copy on FT8. You're beyond the window. You're into the next window, right? But they know because the moon is 2.5 seconds away, you got to be able to work on that. So they put in the software an option to deal with that. We'll talk about that shortly.
So instead of starting at the 00, you would back down to like 57 seconds.
Yeah, but you don't even have to do that. You click a box and it's all automatic.
57.3 or something like that. Yeah.
It waits 2.5 seconds before it starts its decode is what it does. And it's all figured out for you. This Joe Taylor made this thing so easy, it's disgusting. And that's why some people don't like his software. It's just that easy. So how do you find these guys? Well, you use several places on the internet, but for 432 on up, this is a very popular one, and it's run by HB9Q. This is the gang with the 50-foot dish. It's a gang of about 4 or 5 people that have gone together to create this superstation and also this logging software, which we'll look at live in a minute if there's anyone there. And this is where I will get Frank, this fellow I was listening for. What frequency is he on? Well, there he is. He's calling CQ at 432.084. He's second. There's first and then there's second in FT8 for those people who played with that. This is the Q65 60B mode he was on. He's going to be at 1500 hertz on the audio spectrum, like Jim was talking about. And CFOM, that stands for constant frequency on the moon. And we'll talk about that in a bit. This is Frank's setup. Not as big as Bernd's setup in Germany, but still pretty healthy. I don't know how many Yagis he's got there. We could count them if you want, but anyhow, it's a lot. And I saw his station, thought, hey, I might have a crack at this guy. And this is going forward. What I hope to get going, hopefully by next spring, is as a band up from this 1296. With this dish, I'll have some real gain, and I've got an amplifier already for it. So with this one, I should be able to play with the regular people, not just the top guns. So
Yeah, that's I thought that's what you had that satellite dish for.
Yeah, and I talked about this before, and Jimmy was saying, hey, when are you going to get going on that? Well, Jimmy, things happened this summer, and it got put on the back burner, but it's moving up to the front. It's moving up to the front burner. Okay, so
obviously camouflage, so nobody will see it.
The bush is going to come down.
Oh,
it has to come down. I can't shoot through it if it's got leaves on it. Okay, so this is the website. We're looking live right now. Who is online? Who's online live right now? Just me. In the last hour, these people were online. The moon is not in a great position tonight for most of the world. So this is not a busy place tonight, but it'll be a function. It'll still show you how it functions. So you need to register, and I won't get into how to do that, but I'm going to call it my profile. And I put receive only on all these things. Unless I'm in a very good situation where I think I can transmit and work someone, I leave these receive only so that the people don't call me trying to work me. So I don't want to mislead people. And if you want to start looking at this just to listen, you can put in nothing here. You can just put receive only and get yourself registered. There's no cost to this, and you can have a look anywhere you want. To change band took a long time. We're on UHF, and it turns out it's the I. Now, are you guys copying me okay? I just got a message that my internet is unstable. Can still hear me okay?
It's all right now. Yeah.
It's probably been in and out. Sorry, gang. What can I say? DSL.
I think I got everything. Yeah.
So to change bands, you click on this little I, and look what pops up. So that's 432 we're on. We'll briefly go over to 1296 is probably the most popular one. So now we're looking at the people that are on there. And I'll go back to 432. Now, there. In the last hour, probably a third as many people. So you can see if you're thinking about getting into this, 1296 is a good place to be. Well, a bit more complicated in some ways. They use circular polarity as opposed to horizontal polarity and vertical polarity. But in some ways that makes life easier. Because the frequency is higher for the same size of antenna, you can get a lot more gain. The equipment is, you're looking at transverters quite often, or if you've got a IC 9700, then I guess you just need an amplifier. But a transverter is not a bad way to go, and they're available from a place not far out of Tallahassee, Down East Microwave, for around $700 or $800 US. So not out of realm of doing it. Okay, so this is how to tell someone's calling CQ, where they're at. Now, someone named Mila was calling CQ back at 12:15. I don't know what Zulu time is now, but that's probably an hour ago or something. What's his information? We hover over his call sign and click once, and there we go. This guy has 32 9-element antennas. So not as big as Bird, who had 128, but probably on par with that Frank guy. And he's also on 1296. So this gives an idea of the power he's putting out, his grid location, and all that stuff. So that's kind of important data for you to decide, hey, should I try to listen for this guy or not? So I think at first you would just do listening. And then if you really felt lucky, you'd go in and try to work the guy. But listening is exciting too. What else was I going to talk about the logger? Oh, yeah. And again, we see constant frequency on the moon. So you'll see that time again. It's kind of the standard way of doing it. So I'll explain it here. What's happening is you're sitting on the planet Earth and you're looking at the moon come up over the eastern horizon. It's traveling in this direction, but it's also traveling towards you because you're not at the center of the Earth. If you were doing this from the center of the Earth, there would be no motion towards you. It'd all be lateral motion. There would be no Doppler to worry about. But because you're not at the center of the Earth, you're 4,000 miles off the center of the Earth, then as it's rising, it's moving towards you. When it's directly overhead, there's no motion in terms of Doppler towards you or away from you. As it's heading over to the setting side on the west side, now it's moving away from you. So on almost all points in the evening, there is some Doppler, and it's a healthy Doppler once you get up into these high frequency. It gets multiplied. The higher frequency you go, the more effect Doppler has. So we saw it a bit when Greg and I did that aircraft scatter demonstration between Dothan and Panama City Beach. Was that 2 years ago, Greg, or was that last year? Whatever.
I don't know. 2 years, I'd say.
2 years ago, we could see the Doppler effect from the airplanes moving between Greg and I. Well, the same thing is happening with the moon traveling. Doppler needs to be done. So what they decided is, who should do the Doppler correction? Should it be the DX station? Should it be you? How are you going to coordinate that? And they said, well, hold it. What if you each did your share? In other words, have it so that if there was a ham guy sitting on the moon, he would be hearing both signals at exactly 432.079. So that means I have to shift mine a little bit. And depending on if the guy's over in Europe, let's say, and the moon is coming up for him, he might have to shift the other way. But at any point, our frequencies would be exactly the same, and at whatever is posted here, 432.079, if an imaginary person was on the moon listening to both stations. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yes, yeah.
So that's the trick, CFOM.
And just the opposite when it's going away, when it's going down.
Yeah. Now you can both be, like I was trying to work Frank in North America, so we're both on the same side of the Doppler shift. But by agreeing ahead of time that you're going to make it constant on the moon, then it doesn't matter, like whether you're in Europe or he's in Carolinas. It's irrelevant. The software will work it out, and we'll look at that next. Now I got to move on. Trouble is I've got my share screen where I want to click my button.
Do you call that zenith when it's directly overhead? Because
I believe so.
Astronomical terms, zenith is directly.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And then at that point, it would be no shift.
And do you call it ascending and descending?
In that 479. They don't really get into it. In fact, by the time the software works it all out, they don't even discuss it. It's just kind of like go CFOM and let the chips fall where they may. Let the software figure it out for you.
Gotcha.
When to do this? When's your best chance of doing this? Well, it's just passed. If you're up in the high frequencies. It's in August, September. It's on 2 different weekends for 50 megahertz, 6 meters. There is guys doing in 6 meters. One in Montana in particular, who's got a super station. If you've got a good 6-meter antenna and you've got a view of the eastern or western horizon without too many buildings or trees in the way, he's doable. His name is Lance. I forget his call sign, but 50 megahertz, 6 meters is a trouble. It's tough to do, but it can be done, and he's done it all over the world. This guy does de-expeditions to exotic places with 6 meters, and his YouTubes are something to behold. 6 meters up to 1296 that we're talking about, which is 1.3 gigahertz, is October 11th, 12th of next year, and November 8th, 9th. So those are the 2 weekends. If you are going to try any listening, that's the hot weekend. If you are doing it that weekend and you go to the HB9Q logger, be very patient. There's so many people using that logger. When you click station info, you got to wait 20, 30 seconds before you'll get that little black window come up talking about what that station's got for power. It's kind of an overload during these 2 weekends, but it's kind of the excitement too. It's a lot of fun. And a lot of people who are running these little tiny antennas are making QSOs because these big guys are all there. HB9Q, NC1L, and another station I'll talk about in a bit. Tremendously powerful stations are on those 2 weekends, but they'll also be on at other times when the weekend is good. When is the weekend good besides the contests? It's at dxmap.com, emecalendar.html. So if you just Google search EME calendar, this will probably come up for you.
Wow, what is this?
It's based on, here you can get some sexy stuff for sale. Ads.
Is she for sale?
It gets me, it's the same ads on all the different sites. Can't they be original? Anyhow, there's someone named EX6VQ has put out one for 2 meters. 2 meters and 432 are going to be very close as far as good and bad weekends. Why are some weekends good and some weekends bad? I'm not going to go through the whole chart, but he talks about good ones and poor ones and moderate ones. Why are they different? The Earth,
Well, first of all, the moon's got to be up.
well, the moon's always up for someone.
Oh, yeah.
Right? We're talking Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, Europe, United States, Canada. So that's not a function. This graph is more to do with these 2 points here. And the text is kind of small. I hope you guys can read it. I can't blow this
Just
up.
enlarge it.
Live. I can't. How do I enlarge on a live website?
We can enlarge it by spreading our screen. I can read it. The Earth-Moon distance is at an absolute minimum, and the moon is.
You want the Earth-Moon distance varies, so you want that to be close, and you want the moon in front of a cold region of the sky. In other words, if the moon's in front of the Milky Way, not a good night.
Oh, yeah. Because it emits noise.
That's lots of black background microwave radiation, all kinds of frequencies coming in, and that makes a huge difference. Now, the differences are only dB. Here's the chart. So DGRD is degradation. In other words, how far down is it from perfect? 1 dB is considered excellent. And so on and so forth to the fact you get to 5 dB, that's poor. So you're thinking 5 dB, that ain't much. I mean, I've gone from this antenna to that antenna, and they're 10 dB different, and they both seem to work pretty good. But when you're doing EME, every dB counts. You fight for every dB that you can. And having the moon in a place that gives you a difference of 5 to 1 is critical. And on nights when it is up around 1.5, you'll have that HB9Q logger full of people, just pages of people trying to contact each other. And it doesn't have to be during that. The contest by default is set on weekends when it's good. I mean, they know where the moon's going to be, right? 100 years from now. So they set the contest up on good weekends. But there are other good weekends that it might be worth checking out. When I had that almost attempt with HB9Q, that was not a contest weekend. And when I got through to the guy in Germany in February of last year, that was not a contest weekend. That was just a random weekend.
Chris, is there a website that you can go to find out where a dark sky is on a particular day?
Yeah, I would primarily let these guys who figured it out, but there are programs. They're basically star charts, and you can kind of look for yourself. Now, what areas are good or bad? I know the Milky Way, but there's probably other areas that are bad also, which I don't know, and I don't know the answer to that, Bill. There might be. I don't know. That might be worth.
Heavens Above gives you a lot of information.
Yeah,
heavensabove.com
and Cartes du Ciel. CARTES DECIEL, which means a sky chart. It's a French program and it translates to sky chart. It's free. It's super powerful. You know what? I'll bring it up in a minute. Before I do, I'm going to talk about one more superstation, a new one down in Colorado Springs. Now, this is primarily 1296 and up. This is a 60-foot dish, a radio astronomy dish, scrap. It was government owned, and they put it out there, and some amateur astronomers. Oh, my internet's unstable again. Can you still hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Some amateur astronomers and some amateur radio people pulled together and bought this thing.
Uh-huh.
It has got equipment up the yin yang. One of the guys that does a lot of meteor scatter stuff, Paul N0T, is involved in this gang, and they were on for the last contest, and apparently they were working stations who had like 12 element beams and stuff. They're working everybody. They got power and they've got an antenna. Well, that other one was 50 foot. This is 60 foot, and as you know, it's pi r squared, right? So it's that's a lot of square footage. Yeah, well, I'll talk about that Cartes du Ciel at the end of the presentation there, Bill. I'll come back to that. So I'm going to minimize that. I'm going to bring up a little program here. Now, this isn't for everybody, but if you're at the club and if you happen to, think, well, it's a good weekend coming up, let's try just listening on the little ICOM 910H there with the Lenovo ThinkPad. I brought this icon onto the Facebook. Normally when you're starting it, you're starting SAT PC32. They've got a sub-program in SAT PC32. That's the one that does your satellite controls and stuff and Doppler correction, called SUMEXE. Sun and Moon.exe. And it's not big. That's it there. So it tells you where the sun is. The moon is set for me right now, by the way. It's at minus 62 degrees. But you go to moon, you click this button, bang, it'll start following the moon. And it works pretty well. It holds it within a degree or two. The trick of it is to go outside if it's not a dark night, not a cloudy night, is get out in the parking lot and look down the rotor and see, is it pointing at the moon? Because I know you guys get the odd high wind down there. It might have moved on the mast or what have you. And if it isn't, you can either go up there with a wrench and fix it, or you can hit rotor and you can do a correction in elevation here or azimuth here, up or down. So you could, what I do on mine is I put it on my tablet, I remote into my computer that's inside the shack, and I do my correction while I'm standing on the roof looking down the antenna. I go, okay, let's give it 3 degrees. Oh yeah, that's lined up pretty good. I hit store, continue, done.
The correction's in there.
It's in there. So this isn't for everybody, but I'm just saying, if you're at the club and you want to be trying this thing, it's an option. And that you'll find that icon on the desktop. SUM. Okay, so now let's get into WSJT, the workhorse. Now, do you need to do it with WSJT? Years ago, people did CW, and they still do it now. It's workable, but it's tough. These WSJT modes will give you probably, I'm just off the top of my head, 15, almost 20 dB more sensitivity. And as I've said before, every dB counts. Well, to get a lump 20 dB, hey, got to do it. Do people do voice on this Earth, Moon, Earth? Yes, they do, but it would have to be superstation to superstation, like that one in Colorado talking to that Frank in North Carolina or South Carolina. They could probably hear each other's voice.
That was going to be my question. Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, I've heard at Colorado, they said hello, waited 2.5 seconds, and heard their voice come back. Hello. It's unbelievable. This is FT8, which is dead. It appears right now. I'm just going to real quickly see if it's alive on any band. Oh, it is. There's a signal right there. I don't know if I'm going to get a decode or not. Yes, I did. So I'm picking up, this is FT8. I don't know, some of you have played with it, some of you haven't. To give you an idea of how FT8 works, that's the antenna I'm using right now.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I've tried it, Chris. I'm having problems getting drivers from Yaesu into my.
That's a trick. There's some YouTubes out there that'll step you through it, John.
Okay.
I'm going to click that guy's call. So I picked him up at 1,086 miles away with a 12-inch chunk of wire sitting in my kitchen in a shitty town for RF. So there you have it. This is what these digital modes can do for you. And FT8 is not as good as Q65. So let's go to Q65. Any questions on FT8 while we're here? That's a whole animal in itself. We should do a presentation on that.
For a while, Chris, people were using Q65 like FT8. I think it predated FT8.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, not Q65, but I think JT65 or
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
It's a different one. All right.
Slightly different, not terribly different at all. And even today, if you have people doing FT8 and someone wants that grid real bad and they're talking by email or on a chat page and it's just not quite working out, they'll say, can you go Q65? They'll say yes. And this will give them another maybe 5-10 dB over FT8 and they'll get the QSO done. So let's look at Q65. That's really what we're here for. Now, Q65 does not work on 20 meters. That's what the little red thing is telling me. But it does work on 70 centimeters. So I jumped to 432.065. I should talk about what I'm doing it while I'm doing it. So I went from 20 meters and I just picked, now this is the default frequency for Q65 on UHF. And I got to move all you guys again. Oh, can't. How do I do that? You know what? I'm going to move the window instead. You guys are covering up my my screen. I'm going to move it up like that. There we go. Yeah, we don't need to look at the waterfall. I just bounce it up like that. And there, now I can see what I'm doing. Sorry about confusing you there. Okay, so we are on 432.065. Now, if we went back to that fellow that we were listening to, was on, what was it, 079 or something like that? To enter a frequency directly, 432.079. You just type it in there, hit enter, and there it goes.
Oh, there it is.
So the same thing goes with FT8, although FT8 you don't often do that because everyone's at the same frequency, 14.074. Why would you move? But on Earth, Moon, Earth, people could be at 065, 068, 079, 071, and you want to, if you're listening for a particular person, you want to go to his frequency. So, hang on a sec. I've got to be able to move you guys. How do I do this? Oh, there we go. There we go. Now I got it. I can move you around. I'm going to jump back and let's just look at one of these guys who is on the logger. Yeah, he was at 432.079 at 1500.
Well, Chris, your radio is on sideband, is that right?
That's right. That's a good point to bring up, Greg. This would not work with an FM radio. So you need to have one of the older Icom 910s. I run with a TS2000. John's new radio, the FT991A, works beautifully with this. The Icom 7300 does not. Well, unless you're doing 6 meters, and then it will work great. You may have to also buy the Icom 9700 to go with your 7300, and they look beautiful together, don't they, Greg? Or did you sell your 9700? Greg?
No, I got them. Yeah.
You sold your 7300.
That's right.
Okay. Anyways, lots of different radios can do single sideband UHF, VHF, but not all. And that is a requirement. Thank you for that, Greg. Okay, so that guy's gone now. I'm going to clear the screen because we're not on this frequency. So we're not expecting to pick up. Oh, and he said 1500, didn't he? So I moved my mouse to the 1500 area. Oh, dang. My Zoom window popped in. I'm going to guess where 1500 is. You guys can see it, but I can't. I wrote there, right? You can also type it right in here. One 1500, enter. And now I'm listening at 1500 and transmitting at 1500. So that's where the guy was. 432.079, but the smart people in the class will be thinking to themselves right now, what about the Doppler? You ain't got no Doppler. So this is all built into this thing. It's under view and it's under astronomical data, which doesn't really lend itself well to explaining that it's going to be for Doppler. I think it should have been under astronomical Doppler shifting, but they called it astronomical data. Anyhow, you click that, bing, that pops up. And it defaults to constant frequency on the moon. There are other times when you want to use these other ones, like if you're calling CQ or if you're doing your own echo test off the moon. But I'm not going to get into that because I really don't know it that well. But let's see what happens. Once we've done that, constant frequency on the moon. Call me a liar. It should have jumped frequency here. I think I've lost connection to my radio. That's interesting. I'm going to turn it off and turn it on again. Okay, so it lost control there. I'm on a Bluetooth connection on the back of the radio, so it takes a minute to come up. And we'll try that again. Turn that off. Wow, that's interesting. It might be because the moon has set for me, although I tried it earlier this evening. The moon had already set and it worked just dandy, but it's not working for me now. So what I expected to happen is that frequency to change slightly because I've got Doppler tracking selected. And you know why? The moon's straight over my head.
Yeah. There we go.
My self Doppler is 0 hertz. Correction. What a bad time to do this demo. You guys will have to take my word for it, or wait around an hour and we'll see this frequency slowly changing. But it's at the, what do you say? The zenith for me right now. So there you have it. I'm not going to bother going into it. Trust me, this would start offsetting in frequency as we go along, because we've selected Doppler tracking. We've asked for it so that it will be on the moon, will be 432.065. Bang, it works. It works. The delay I'm talking about, the 2.5 second delay, that's not automatic. Just because you're working Q65 doesn't mean you're doing EME. You could be doing aircraft scatter like Greg and I did between Panama City Beach and Dothan 2 years ago. It's here, File, Settings, General, Decode after EME delay. Click. Okay. Don't forget to click it back when you start doing FT8 the day after. I work a guy doing aircraft scatter during the week, and he's an EME guy, and he's always forgetting to do that. We're not decoding. You know, I said, well, if you got your EME delay on, he goes, oh yeah, and he unclicks it, and then it decodes. So if you are clicking that, remember that it's clicked. They should have a little flag come up, you know, delay on there, you idiot. So that's how easy it is with WSJT. I mean, really, this guy has worked. He's a big, Joe Taylor is an EME guy. And if you go into some of the forums and ask EME questions, he'll be the one answering a lot of the times. He's really, really involved in this stuff. Well, he was a, you know, astronomer that found one of the first pulsars and stuff with that Puerto Rican dish and stuff.
Arecibo.
Yeah. He did his research there, I think in the 70s, maybe early 80s, and found data that proved Einstein's general theory of relativity, that it spurned on the development of the CERN circulartron, or whatever they call that.
Cyclotron?
Yeah, cyclotron in Switzerland and stuff. They said had he not gotten that data, that cyclotron never would have been built, probably. But you know, that's part of it. I think that's about all I got. You can do this with a Monst antenna, but don't expect great results. As you saw, I had mine on for a whole evening. I got one decode from the guy while it was tracking. So if you were good to go to the club during one of these hot weekends and set up with the club station, or take your, you know, UHF Yagi out into your backyard and stuff, you might get one, you might not. Now, 1296, you can build a pretty powerful antenna, and people are doing it with not much wattage. Amplifiers aren't terribly expensive, and people are doing it out of their yards by looking down the thing and looking for the moon and stuff. And it is being done. So I'm just saying, on a budget, yes. Is it cheap? No, but it's there. So just, you know, if this ever makes you wonder, what do I need to get involved? Well, a lot of the stuff, especially with this software, has been made so much easier than it was 15 years ago, and so much in reach of people because the software does so much of the heavy lift. Any questions on that?
Yes, I got one.
Yeah, go ahead, Bill.
When was the first moon bounce? Do you know?
I think it was in the 60s by the military,
okay.
But I'd have to look that up. That I have Googled that, but I don't remember the answer to that. But on the different bands, there's been different folks who've gotten numero uno. I think my buddy in Winnipeg might be one of the first guys on, what did he do this summer? 47 gigahertz he's up to. He does 10 gigahertz regularly. He's got work all states, 1296, Earth, Moon, Earth. Every state in the United States from Winnipeg, Manitoba. So this guy is He's a keener. Now, someone else have a question there?
I show the first moon bounce was in 1953.
53. Okay. Was it military, Jimmy?
Nope, it was amateur radio.
Oh, wow.
First moon bounce, also known as Earth Moon Earth communication, took place in 1953.
And the moon does not bounce well. It's dirt, right?
It's dust.
It's tough.
Yeah.
It's like
I thought it was
off-
cheese now.
Green cheese.
It's like trying to bounce off of a field. Like it doesn't bounce really well. I forget what the percentage of reflection is, but it's like nothing. And that's why this is such a challenge. And it's very small, like at arm's length, it's like 1 degree out there. So your beam width has to be narrow. Your aim has to be good, but
it's round, so that's going to affect it too.
Oh, you know what I didn't touch on was how to change to 60B. I'm at 15B because that's what we use for aircraft scatter. Let's quickly show you that in case people are wondering. So down here is your transmit receive period. And you go 1, 2 to 60 seconds, and we're already at mode B. So there we are. This little window down here in the corner is a nice thing to remember. If you forget where you're at, it summarizes it right there. Q65 60B. This seems to be the one that's people are excited about. I don't know why. If you look at that, the bandwidth is from 1500 to 1700 hertz. So red is where you're transmitting, much like FT8. Green is where you're receiving. So I can receive anyone whose left side of their signal falls in that green band. I can make that green band bigger by taking my tolerance up. And you'll see when I was trying to receive that Frank guy in Carolinas, I had it out to there because I didn't have confidence in my frequency being correct. As it turned out, I was like within 1 hertz. So I could have had it, watching the green bar there, I could have had it there and it would have worked. But anyhow, that's adjustable. It's all, your radio might be receiving slightly different than it's transmitting. So you can actually, with different keypad numbers, you can actually shift the transmit independent of the receive. I'm holding the shift button as I'm doing this here. Well, if you don't press anything, it moves the receive up and down. If you hold the control, it locks them together. So that's little Q65 tricks. Oh, hey, look at our Doppler. 10 hertz out now. So we have got some Doppler correction because the moon is no longer straight over my head. 432065, and I'm tuning for, I'm going to move you guys so I can see it. I'm tuning for 065. I'm putting out 020. So it's doing an active Doppler as we speak. So there, we did make it long enough for that to work. Any other questions, you guys? That's EME in a nutshell. Well, maybe you got any questions, Greg? We could stop the recording and then I'll get into the CART DCL very briefly.
No.
Or should I include that in this video? For the astronomer buffs, let's close this guy down. Oh, come on. My Zoom menus keep popping down, so I can't see what I'm doing. This is the icon for it here. CARTS DCL, which translates to SkyChart. This is a very powerful program. And for the astronomers, this is the one to get, and it's free. This here, we'll click on, we'll make it now. Oh, it wants to upgrade its asteroid list. When I was playing around with that comet the other day, I would update my comet elements. and it's slow internet here. Holy cow! You know what? I'm going to cancel it. Anyhow, got reasonable internet. In about a few seconds, it'll update all the latest information about comets. If you're looking at that, but there's the Milky Way right now. So, and where is the moon? Oh, the moon's set. Okay, so it was at the zenith below my feet. It was straight below my feet is where it was.
That's all in French. Can that be, you got anything that can convert it?
This is all in English. The only thing French is the title.
Oh, I saw right in the middle of the Milky Way, Sagitta. I think it was Sagitta. And I guess I thought that was supposed to be Sagittarius. That's all I saw.
Yeah, there's Gemini. There's options in here where you can put in labels, bigger labels, no labels, and stuff like that. It's a phenomenal program. And
but I see it's all in English.
Yeah, and it's got a beautiful print function. Look at the print preview here. Oh man, this internet is awful. Come on, baby. You can do it. Don't be afraid. It gives you a nice black and white picture.
Oh yeah.
For what I was just looking at. You print it out, go outside in your backyard with your binoculars or what have you. Beautiful.
M82.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Ursa Major.
So Cartes
Orion.
du Ciel. CARTES-DU.
I took a screenshot of that.
Yeah.
I enlarged it and pulled the upper left hand, and I took a screenshot. So I'll be able to get that.
Astronomy, whether it's just backyard with your kids or whatever, or serious stuff with a big telescope, this is the program to have. It's free.
Yeah, Sky is one I'm used to. SKEYE.
Yeah.
But I like this.
This one is pretty heavy duty. This will interface to a telescope, and I've actually had this hooked up to my Meade 14, and I can click on a star once the scope is calibrated to the sky. It was right there. It's
you have a 14-inch Meade? 14-inch?
Yeah.
Wow. But
that's what I said when I saw it. I think I told this story. There was a guy died on the neighboring island, and his family was getting rid of stuff in a hurry. And I said, $500. He said, well, okay.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow. Would you adopt me?
The tripod was 80 pounds. The OTA, like the scope itself, was 85 pounds. And I put it in a 14-foot tin boat and went home, and it was like, whoa. It was heavy duty. Anyhow, any other questions about EME, guys, or anything? I'm going to stop the share then.
Well, you really filled us in, Chris, and wish you good luck on
on 1296. Yes.
Yeah. Awesome.
Now that's going to be a project. I've got a it's bought it so long ago I can't remember. I think it's 101 amplifier or something like that. I've got a gearbox I've purchased, and I've drive shaft. That's the next step. I got to cut the drive shaft. I got the mounting plates already made up, ready to bolt onto the pole, and then when I get it moving, I'm going to get my wife to wheel that 11-foot dish over to where we got it down. It's surprisingly light. It's all aluminum. And then bolt it into position, and then see if it's got the energy to tilt it up and down, left and right. It'll be counterbalanced stuff, but
that'll make it easier.
Yeah.
All right. Well, since this was recorded, I'm sure we'll get a lot of views by people that couldn't make it tonight. So thank you very much, Chris. Really enjoyed it.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
That was nice.
Thank you, Chris.
That's great.